Hi, Sophie. Very nice to
Hi,
have you here.
nice to be
Um,
here with you.
like in this format, I don't do introductions, like, but in this case, where like I only met you a week ago, and also like you were a guest vocalist on an album that was just released, like an album I did with Jan Peter Schwalm. And so that was like kind of like the first collaboration, but I didn't have anything to do with it because Peter, did that session with you at a distance. So very nice to have a chance to talk with you and to find out something about you. And I've already heard a couple of interesting things that you sort of like you grew up in Germany, but you're Belgian and you speak Russian and like you speak fluent German and English and French, and uh, this is pretty amazing. So let's just start anywhere where you want to start, right? Like, who are you?
Good question. That's a very philosophical question because I guess we are in change constantly. We are not, I'm not who I was yesterday, and you neither, and all of us, right?
It's true, but like sometimes we forget
Cool.
about that.
Yeah, yeah. It's fun to go back in time and think, oh, was I like? I mean, was that me? Or I don't know if you have that too. If you go
Mhm.
back in time. I mean, especially when you're a teenager or you're 20, you look back, you were a child or you were a teenager.
Mhm.
But I'm 41, and when I look back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I was an adult, but I was a very different person. Yeah.
Mhm. I can tell you that when I was your age, like being in my late 40s now is again a whole different ball game, ballpark. It's very because now I can, look back 30 and 40 years, which is crazy,
Wow. Yeah, it is.
crazy. Yeah. Yeah, so would you say that you're sort of like very aware of your process of change? Is that something that interests you a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I love change actually in many ways. I mean, also in music, but in change, yeah, change of perception of the world, of feelings, of people, of communication.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I love that. Actually, I love changing, I must say. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to go through different phases, and yeah, just to experience different lifetimes. I mean, we're all getting old, and we're all experiencing that, and I don't like dwelling on the fact that I'm getting older. I'd rather see it as something new, like a new chapter. And when I'm 60 or 70 or 80, it's going to be fun. I'm going to be, yeah, I'm going to enjoy my 80s. I can feel it already.
It's interesting because I had to do with psychology in my
Yeah.
20s, as I was studying it. I sort of like uh, started having the belief that change is highly unlikely, in
Uh-huh.
people, because that's sort of like what the part of the clinical psychology is kind of like focused on, is like the management of change somehow, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And but there you go, it's just the management of change is not, because change is, as you say, is happening all the time, but then the question is like in which direction, and then like sometimes it may be useful to have some guidance, for the to go in the right direction, whatever that means. But even
I'm
though, yeah.
I'm totally
So
I've done a lot of psychotherapy, so in my life, many years. So I think it's extremely necessary
mhm,
to,
mhm.
yeah. I mean, maybe not for everyone, but it's a very interesting thing to go through. Yeah.
what would you say is like the major, if you can share it, like the major piece of information or like knowledge you've uncovered, or what really was or is so important for you about like about the psychotherapy?
I think, I mean, well, as you asked, the one thing that really helped me and was like a wow moment is when I realized that I can't change others, but I can only change myself. And then I started being more empathic. That was also good. Seeing other people as people who struggle just like me, like we're all struggling in some way or another. Mm-hmm. And therefore acceptance, and then it's all fine. It's all cool.
Yeah, that's a really amazing. Like you have some sort of, and some people would say that's not true, but like we can have the knowledge that we can change things for ourselves, that we can make decisions, and that we can go and have some influence on our lives. And I see that like at the moment, like seeing the COVID related depression around me, and like I'm also being affected by that. It's really interesting how that initial drive, the will to live, basically, that we are given at birth, can get diluted. And I have like I've never thought about it, but sometimes I was wondering, how is that for animals, really? Like, I'm like was wondering, can animals have depression, and probably yes, I would say, right? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe my cat has that. Now I'm thinking about it. I don't know. She's a bit weird. A cat psychologist is going to come in 2 weeks.
Really?
I mean, she's not a psychologist, but she's like she's going to try to figure it out. Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I have the cutest cat, but she's a bit problematic. Anyway, let's not get into details.
No, I mean that. I think it's an interesting question, kind of like our consciousness is the challenge, right? Because like we can decide if we somehow we can decide if we want to get up in the morning or not, right?
Which gives us a lot of power. It gives us a lot of power, but then I'm thinking about when you are clinically depressed and stuff happens in your brain which you can't control, and that pushes you down. That is a tricky. I mean, it's fascinating. The human brain is a fascinating thing. What can you control and what can't you control? What is in your hands and what is affecting you from outside or inside? Yeah, that's very
exactly, because as we know, like our bones can be broken, right? So like our body, where we could like assume that the body carries the spirit and the soul and the mind, right? For sure, there can be things wrong with the body, and So no, go ahead. Sorry.
Our perception of our environment, I find that also very fascinating. Yeah, because 15 years ago, I lived with my grandmother who was about 90 years old, and she had Alzheimer's. So for a year and a half, we lived together, the two of us, with someone who helped out as well. And she was in a wheelchair, and I spent every day with her, and she would ask the same questions, and I would answer the same way in order for her not to notice. So it was really the same answer, like everything was just normal. It's just, yeah, she was very, very sweet. But there it was interesting to see what does she perceive. thinking that I was maybe her mother or her daughter. She didn't know anymore. She was asking me, "Who are you? My mother or my daughter?" Which was very sweet. So I was something secure. I was security, which is the most important thing. When you forget everything and you don't even know who you are, what is important in that moment, and it's the feeling of security.
Yeah, it's interesting with, like, just like you said, like she had lost the sense of herself even, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then having one person who's there all the time, so that at least you kind of like always see the same face, and you can then at least ask the same question over and over again and get the same answer.
Maybe you know that because I know you have a child. Maybe you know that from having a child who also perceives things differently. I mean, you're there every day, so that's security. Because they will have forgotten what they did yesterday, right? Kids are very forgetful up to a certain age. They forget what they did on the weekend. Like, I mean, I'm teaching little kids, and I ask them, "What did you do on the weekend?" It's like, I mean, 5-year-olds or 4-year-olds are like, and then I ask, but it's okay. Was it fun? Yeah, that's the most.
I don't even remember what I had for lunch. So.
That's okay.
No, but I'm sort of currently I wouldn't be able to subscribe what you said, because my daughter, she has an amazing memory.
Yeah.
And so because she's just like in the past couple of months she started to talk, and so she's really telling us about things that she remembers, and mostly it's events that had some sort of like emotional power to them, right? And so she really remembers them very well, and she has surprised us even talking about things that are like that she experienced when she was a year old.
No way.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. I have sort of like the theory at this point, like we'll find out, but that the child can also learn to acquire the tools, let's say, to build a memory. Because like I can say for myself, I have I only remember like 2 or 3 things from my childhood, and those, but like with my daughter, it seems also because technology is so different now. Like we take photos, right? And like the photo that we've just taken, we show it to her, and she asks to see photos like maybe tomorrow. And so she kind of like has this kind of like, you know what I mean? Like the memories
up. The memory in a different way than we were, I can imagine, because she has the help of the photos or with videos.
Yeah, exactly.
And exactly. Then it can connect.
And it's interesting, that's why I think that, like our generations, like, from the 70s, 80s, we were still sort of like the pre-internet, right? And that's what you said to me, right? You were also pre-internet.
Pre-internet.
So the let's talk more about the psychotherapy thing later. Do you think that there is sort of like some relation to your interest in music?
To psychotherapy?
Not the psychotherapy, but just in general, like like your emotional world, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just made that realization a few days ago that something has shifted in the last years, and that before that I was completely focused on music because of emotions. Like, it was a tool to work on emotions, to express emotions, and to work on stuff that was happening. And a few years ago, it switched to enjoying bettering myself and practicing and creating something, it totally switched. Of course, I do feel these emotions as well. I do use them, but in the past it was only that. And I remember that from a child, from being a child. I was going on holidays, and when I came back, I needed to play the piano because I started my musical journey really with classical piano. And I came back and I had to play a chord, and just feel the sound, which was filling me up emotionally. Yeah. So that was funny to feel that shift.
Interesting, huh? Because like I think this very romantic or romanticized image of an artist that a lot of people of a musician, a lot of people who don't make music have, is that everything we do is kind of like coming from that romantic side, from the emotion, right?
Yeah, but
so
not necessarily.
do you have any idea of how that shift came about for you?
I think I got a bit more balance within myself.
Yeah.
I think I was done with all the therapy I had done in my life. Yeah, I guess I figured out some sort of balance. Of course, I still have, these emotional moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But basically, and mainly because I embrace those that I like, I do like to feel those. So I like going a bit in unknown territory. I've noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
That I do like some sort of risk and some difficulties in order to, I guess, feel fear and then work on something that happens in that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, you just used the word balance. I think that's really, and funnily enough, I mean, if you would ask me, I'm just asking myself here, but like balance really is, like in music, is maybe very important for me.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of always have a little bit of both, a little bit of just thinking and feeling and also doing, like using my hands.
Yeah. But do you use music as an emotional vehicle as well, or is it different for you?
I would say that music for me primarily is actually represented within me as an emotion somehow, but not necessarily an emotion that I can use a word for. I think the music that I then sort of like discover, it's not that I created. It doesn't feel like I created. It's something that I discover. I recognize it. I do something and then I just I have been looking for that sound, or for looking that feeling that I get when I hear this sound. And that's how it is for me. And like this, the special feature of music is that it can capture these emotions that I don't have words for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can totally relate, because some emotions are not even clear. They are just some sort of feeling, I guess.
Yes, exactly. Like clear, like to me, like I'm not clear or sure about any of my emotions, to be honest. like super confused.
That's okay.
But I don't experience that as a bad thing. Like for me, it's something good. Like and
great.
And creatively, it keeps me going. Because I'm still interested in discovering sounds. So then, when that shift, or that like more balance came into your life and into your music, how did that play out in the real world?
In the real world, what do you
Like,
mean?
did you have like did you start to compose differently, or did you start a new band, or was there anything sort of that became available by feeling more balance?
It's a bit. I didn't really realize it back then. I just now retroactively realized that it was only emotion in the past, pretty much. I mean, of course, I had had ideas when I composed. I had maybe certain theoretical ideas of where I wanted to go, or for arrangements, or I don't know what. But when it shifted, I realized now that I shifted towards much more work, like much more practice, much more thinking about a finalized product, so to say, something that fits, and then working hard. I mean, I've been working for 2 years now on an album with Arabic lyrics.
Wow.
Totally silly.
Amazing.
But I don't know, it just happened.
Did you get a teacher for the language, or how?
Oh yeah, my God, I've had multiple teachers, and now I have a very patient one who can actually sing. And so he can explain to me certain things which other people couldn't explain. So I was basically making mistakes and I didn't know why. Mm-hmm. You know, it has to do with shorter vowels, longer vowels, sounds that you do in the throat, different types of letters. It's a nightmare. But I love it, of course. I love it. Now it's starting to come together. And the other day I sang the song in front of a Syrian friend, and he could understand everything. He had only 1 or 2 things to say to correct, but basically it was okay, you know. And I was like, oh my God, that was hard work, you know. But yeah, it was very interesting.
You know, I love the fact that you said that you're coming from playing the piano, which is a polyphonic instrument, right? Like you can play chords, you have like the full range of the harmonic potential of the 12 notes and all that. And you are a very accomplished singer, and that is like where you sing 1 note at a time, right? With the voice. Usually. So yeah. I think that is sort of like almost like the ideal situation for a musician to experience both.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when do you remember when you returned from your holidays as a child, which chord you played?
No, but probably it was part of one of these classical pieces I was, but I'm sure it must have been minor. I'm sure, because I've been a fan of them, of minor.
I think you must have played an F minor chord.
F minor chord, probably. Yeah. I'm sure you're right.
Yeah. So tell us about your early days with the instrument, with the piano. Like, did your parents send you to music school, or how did that happen?
I mean, my parents bought a piano, an upright piano, before I was born, I think, thinking maybe one of the girls will play the piano. And at age 4, my mom started teaching me the Suzuki method, which is more like with the hearing, based on exercises through hearing. But she told me that age 3, I already wanted to know which note was what, and I was interested. So it was really my desire. Nobody pushed me. I wanted to do it. But of course, I wanted to quit a million times because my mom was very strict. I had to practice every day, and that got tiring. Yeah, but it was great. It was a great companion for me for all my childhood, until I became a teenager. And then I was in my garden one day. I was 14, and I heard some drums in the garden opposite of my parents' garden. So I went there, climbed over the fence, climbed over the other fence, landed in a garden where there was a garden party and a drummer making the sound check. And I was like, can you show me something on the drums? And he was like, where are you coming from? I'm from that house, you know. And then he said, well, okay, you know. And then he showed me or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he was like, yeah, and then you do that. And it was fun. It was really nice of him to show me that. And then I climbed back, and then I went to my parents. I said, I have to learn drums. I have to go to the music school and have drum lessons. Yeah, which I did for 5 years.
Wow.
Actually, but I could never play. No, I was really a bad student. I didn't practice as much as the piano, but it definitely helped me a bit, you know, to have lessons every week. Yeah.
So, and then you just simply stopped playing drums, or?
Well, I sold my drum kit because I wanted to go to India for 5 months, and I had no money, so I sold my drum kit. I think for 500 euros. I don't know if that's correct because it was in 99. So it was pre-Euro, but it's this idea I have in mind. Anyway, it wasn't a very expensive drum kit, but it permitted me to buy the ticket to go to India and back. And yeah, I was a total hippie when I was 19, you know, 18, 19, 20, which when you see me now, you would never think so.
Oh.
But I was a really, yeah, I was a hippie wearing clothes with holes and all that.
Yeah. Wow.
Searching for something, I guess, I don't know.
So when did your voice come into play? I mean, like, for real, like when did you start? When did you realize that you're also a singer?
Yeah, I mean, I sang all my life. I always loved singing.
Yeah.
And then I the thing is, in those days, and I don't know in other countries how it is, but in Belgium, every kid can go to the music school for free. Absolutely for free, €0 the whole year. Now it's changed since 20 years. You maybe pay 30 euros per year for your child, or 50, I don't know. It's ridiculous. But you have to go to the solfège. I don't know how you say that in English.
Solfège, I
theory.
think.
Yeah, solfège. Basically a theory, and you learn to read notes and to sing notes, and you know, and you have to go for 5 years, and that's really that's tiring for someone who just wants to have a hobby and play an instrument. But basically, that's the rule. If you do that, you can have a lesson with a teacher, a private lesson once a week. So I wanted to learn all the instruments that I could figure out. But I mean, I did piano, I did drums, I did 2 years of trumpet, and I did 2 years of classical singing. There was no jazz singing, and in those days. Now there is, but back then it was. And the classical singing was really not my thing. I couldn't get it. It was not. Yeah, didn't fit me. So it was a bit blurry. Like, what am I going to do? Because I knew I was way too lazy to become a professional pianist. That was definitely. And also, I was a fan of Chopin. I liked Bach, you know. But there was not much else that I really wanted to play. And if you're a professional pianist, you have to play all sorts of wonderful compositions. But yeah, so it was a bit of a question, yeah. But then you know, I studied 2 years of 1 year of interpreting, like languages, Russian and German. Then I went to India. You know, I was really not finding the thing. And when I came back, I lived at the countryside for a long time with some friends. And then my ex-boyfriend, who told me, why don't you study jazz singing? Because he showed me some jazz tunes, and we were playing together. He was playing the guitar. And then I was like, huh? Okay. And then I prepared for the entrance exam, and I got in, and that was like the best thing for me that I could do. I had to get in there. It was life or death, really, because otherwise, what would I have done? I was lost. I was totally lost.
And this was in Brussels?
It was in Brussels, yeah. 21 years ago, I started. Yeah. So I did my master's degree there.
Master's degree means like 5 years or something?
5 years in total, yeah. It was 5 years. Yeah. And having had this experience of 2 years of like being lost, it was great because I was so excited to be there. You know, I wanted to learn everything I could. Yeah, it's fun.
Wow, it sounds incredible to me, like at the age of 25 to have had like the experience of learning to play piano with two hands, to do the singing, like to do the drums where the limbs are sort of trying to be independent, trip to India, and then the jazz vocal studies. That's a lot, I think. It's a lot. I mean, it's
right. I know, because your experience has been different, right? But you I mean, the guitar is also two hands and the heart and the brain.
for sure. It's just that for me, it was like a very late start, you know, like I started with that when I was 20, really, you know.
Yeah, but that's amazing. I find that really amazing because in a way, when you start so young, it's much easier. I find it's quite impressive when you started at the age you started at.
Yeah.
Because you really had to probably battle a lot of things you don't battle when you're a child because you don't even think about it. You just do it, or people tell you to do it. And like in my case, I was told practice, but you probably did it because you really, I mean, because you had that.
Well, I didn't practice. That's the whole point. Like it took me a long time to even understand. And I've said this quite a few times in these interviews because it's still fascinating to me that I didn't really know that there was such a thing as learning.
All right. But how did you connect to your instrument? And how did you connect to it?
I don't really know. I think there's this aspect which I have not mentioned before, but it was like the performance, like the kind of like stage fright that I had. Like so, whenever in the music school, from the very beginning, there were like recitals, you know, and I remember that I hated those a lot, you know, very much. Like it was really well, hate is not the right word, but you know, I was too nervous and I didn't feel like I wanted to play in front of people. That was not what music was about for me. And somehow that has, and it's strange to say that, but that has destroyed a lot for me. Because I was just thinking, okay, the reason why I go to here to learn to play mandolin is because I need to play a recital to get some sort of like little diploma, you know, at the end of the year or whatever. And I didn't want to do that. I don't know. And so I never practiced. So I mean, I don't know, maybe I was talented enough to just kind of like sit down and play the things. Like it would have never occurred to me to practice. I don't know.
But when you talk about stage fright, I mean, I had to deal with that a lot, especially no, everything, but singing. I just like you. For me, it was. I guess I sang for myself actually. And then having to be like in front of an audience was terrible for me for many years. Actually, the first concert I did was, I had a band in school, you know, in high school. Where I was actually playing drums with a guitarist and a bass player. It's very vague in my memory. You know? And I remember then that playing the drums was not it for me. I needed to sing or play the keyboard and sing. And we were doing some rock tunes. And then the guitarist said, "Oh, Sophie, next weekend we can go to my uncle's wedding and we can play there." Okay, great. Somehow it was like, oh yeah, great. We practiced, we went there, the people were there, and I turned around, you know, my back was facing them. And I was like that. And it was, it was terrible. It was a disaster. And I was like, I can't do that. But yeah. Well, whatever.
So when did you get over that? Do you remember?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. I was trembling so much for my exams that I had to take these beta blocker, these things.
Yeah.
That,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, for a while, but really, I was trembling. I could have fallen, I don't know, subconscious. And then I had a few concerts with my first real band in Belgium. And after a few times, I forgot to take this pill, which stops the trembling. And then I started the gig, and I was like, "Oh, you forgot to take it." But then I realized, oh, but it's okay. It's okay, And from that moment on, I thought, okay, you don't need that anymore. And actually, I started using the fear I used it in the music, actually. It was a really interesting shift again, changing. It was good. It was really good. Because fear is somehow necessary. Of course not if you're trembling and you lose total control. That's terrible. You can't do that to the audience even, right? Because actually your performance is actually a gift to the audience, which was something I had trouble coming up with, but now I got it. I got it now. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And the performance is sort of like, for me, it's a gift to music. That's how I see it at first, like, so I try to be capable of playing the notes or singing the notes that I want to sing, right? That's the challenge.
Yeah.
Like I was 23, 24, 25 when I finally had it under control somehow. But then it took me another 10 years before I played bigger shows and proper shows, So I didn't have much time to practice being on stage. But let me ask you one thing about the jazz studies.
Yeah.
So as a jazz vocalist, what is sort of like the approach in terms of pedagogy? Like how does one become a jazz singer?
Yeah, well, but there's this section, jazz singing at the conservatory. You just enroll and you go with the flow,
Yeah.
But I had a really, really great teacher, David Links. He's a French, Belgian, but lives in Paris. He's
I know of
a
him.
great vocalist, and I think he had the perfect approach for me, because he was not mainstream at all. Like, he wasn't telling me to become another Ella Fitzgerald, He wants his students to become themselves. So that was really great for me. Yeah. Because I didn't fit. I never fit. I would have never fit the jazz section. It's not me. And I think I come from this background with the classical piano and the experiences of life. And for me, I need to express myself with my own music, not through standards. It just doesn't work. Maybe someday I'll have fun doing something with jazz standards, but I've never recorded them. Yeah, I enjoy them sung by other people who do a better job than me.
So in terms of vocal improvisation, like the free improvisation versus like more structured improvisation in the context of some songs you must have been asked to learn as you were studying, right? Has there been any sort of like, what were you more interested in the free form stuff, or?
Everything, actually. I was very, very interested in. I went to an ensemble of free improvisation for 3 years, led by Chris de Voort. I don't know if you know him. He's a Belgian pianist and composer. And that was really a great experiment. We worked on Ligeti, the sequenza for voice, 1 year. No, sorry, not Ligeti, Berio. Yeah, it's the Berio sequenza.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very interesting for me to discover contemporary classical music within my studies. And also my teacher David Links told me you should transcribe anything else but vocalists, you know. So I transcribed piano solos or saxophone solos. So I had a bit of a feeling of other things than just the voice. It was really not, the voice was not the focus in a way. Yeah. The music was the focus, and kind of feeling different things.
And the trip to India, did that have any influence? Like,
yeah, I guess so. I was really lost. I was a very lost teenager. The great thing is that I realized I want to go home and work. I want to learn something. I want to do something with my life, you know. Being a tourist was really not my thing. I didn't understand why I went there. Yeah, it was fascinating, but it was just so surreal. I had sold my drum kit to go there because I was so broke. I had no money, and then I went there, and everybody was coming to me to help them, to give them money or something, because they were so poor. And I was like, but I'm also poor, but of course I'm not as poor as you are. And all that was a bit, I don't want to be in this situation, you know. And
you know, if we're running into
what am I doing here? You know, what am I doing here? I'm not helping anyone there, and I'm not helping myself there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, we're running into situations like that here in Berlin all the time as well, right?
Oh yeah.
With people asking for money, and
yeah. But that shouldn't be the case in a country like this.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you know, I have quite a bit of history with Belgium, because in '93 I went there for the first time for a seminar, and then, like, for quite a few years I went to a summer academy.
Oh yeah, which one? No, which one? In what's it called?
Charleroi or something.
Charleroi? Okay, over there. I don't know.
In the Ardennes, right?
The Ardennes, yeah. I went there too one year. Yeah.
I was there quite a few times. You know, it was like this guy, Daniel Scher, who is a composer. He lives close to Brussels. He also played this touch instrument, and he organized a seminar once, you know, every year. And at some point, it became part of this academy, of the summer camp. And so that's why I went there, and it was pretty amazing. And it was like, for me, it was kind of like shocking to see, in a positive way, how great the Belgian music education was, because the students there and the teachers, they were all amazing and wonderful, and there was like a lot of focus on sort of world music, you know, in the early '90s already, like, and very, very amazing, wonderful to be, you know, exposed to such a wide variety and just like very skilled musicians. And, you know, like, where, at least the music school that I come from, like, there was nothing of that kind, and not that level at all. And it really opened up a lot for me, just like seeing other musicians. And yeah, and it was in particularly the French speaking people that I experienced there, because it was in the south of Belgium, right? Yeah, but I went many years, like I'd say maybe even 10 years.
Wow. But you know, the Flemish side is even more organized.
I believe you.
They have more budget, and it's even better. I mean, I love that system too in Belgium. I used to teach in the Flemish side. Actually, I studied in the Flemish side. But in every town, in every part of a big city, you have a music school. There are tons, and all the kids can go there. I love it. You know, when I see
that's wonderful.
In Germany, you need to have a you know, you're waiting for a spot for to be able to go to this music school, and you have to pay for it. Or I don't really know exactly how it works, but a lot of kids take private lessons for a lot of money. They don't have this theory that we had, you know, they don't have all these theory lessons over years.
Yeah, like the solfège, for example, like I would have loved to learn that as a kid, but no, that just wasn't a thing. And so you speak Flemish as well?
Yeah. You know, it's similar to German. I mean, the thing is, I went to a kindergarten for 4 years, I think, in Flemish. And then I moved to Germany, and I learned German, and I totally forgot Flemish. So not like your daughter probably who would remember, but it totally disappeared. But then when I came back, of course, it was rather easy to get back into it. Yeah.
So at age 25, about 25, you have your master's degree, and what happened then? I mean,
what happened then?
Because that is kind of like an important point in you know, one's life. You know?
Yeah, the best thing in the world happened to me. I went to Canada to a workshop, to Banff. I don't know if you know that workshop. It's called I forget. Creative, the thing with creative, whatever.
I heard about it. I heard about it. Yeah.
Led by Dave Douglas at that time. And I met Susanne Folk, who I have been working with since then. So it's been 15 years. And I was there for 3 weeks, and there I met a lot of people who were interested in working with me, which was awesome. And they were asking me, like one was asking me, can you scream? I'm like, yeah, sure, I can scream. Okay, here's a score. And there was some screaming, and it was great. And then Susanne came and was like, oh, can you sing my songs? And I was like, yeah, great. Can you play my songs? Yeah, great. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah. 3 weeks of that. And then I met Kevin Patton, who is a computer designer, guitar creator. Yeah, you should meet, actually, because you're also a creator, right? You created your touch guitar. And he created, I don't know if he created gloves or something that you can connect to your body, and then you make sounds. And
I see.
Totally crazy things. And he connected my voice to some effects that he was using. That was the first time I was working with effects. And that was so much fun, because I would basically do in the microphone, and it was like a totally crazy world. Yeah, that was fun.
So you were at the right place at the right time there.
Yeah, I think that was exactly it. It was the right place at the right time to be just experiencing whatever I could with what I had learned. Basically, it was all my past on my back. You know, I was there, and I could just explore the beginning of my own musical journey, you know, because when you study, you have to do what you're told to do, or at least you try. And it's not really your world yet. So it was a great start to explore like a vast amount of directions in that during those 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think, you know, we cannot underestimate the power of meeting new people, like in general, right? But especially in the creative context, like that's why seminars, workshops, whatever, are so important for us musicians to go to, and to not just for the networking, not for the career, but for the creativity. And incredible.
Yeah. It was a great time. I mean, back then I was very emotional up and down, but I was very free. I was very free from responsibilities. You know, I had no responsibilities. I was living exactly the way I wanted to, didn't care about much at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was totally different than now, where I'm much more aware of what I do every day. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I experienced the past, let's say, or like um, the time till I was like maybe in my late 30s, even
Mm-hmm.
like more like being in sort of flow, like being thrown into the river
Yeah.
somehow. And yeah, that's very true. It's very
I
true.
think, yeah, what has changed is that I feel boundaries. I feel my limitations, you know, and with energy. And I don't know if you have that too. Over time, you become much more picky with what you do and what you want to do. I find, like, I
Mm-hmm.
know much more what I want, which is a great feeling, but it brings a lot of limitations.
Interesting. Like for me, I was always very much interested in collaboration.
Mm.
Because for a long time I had this idea that, you know, like the work can only get better
Yeah,
by people working together. And, you
yeah,
know, and I would still subscribe to that, but there was like one particular experience with an album, a solo album I did, where I sort of like suddenly had really great feedback about my music.
yeah.
And it was a solo album, you know, like it was like
Ah,
I did exactly what I wanted to do.
yeah. Mm.
And then I realized, okay, so maybe Marcus, you can be more, you can be more convinced about your own path somehow, because like, you know, I was seeing that people were recognizing what was special about my own way of doing things. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think like for quite a few years, collaborating so much was a little bit the result of not feeling super confident.
Mm-hmm. About what you wanted to say by
Yeah,
yourself. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate because my solo album got like really good feedback too. And
Mhm.
I was like, I chose everything, every little thing. And basically that's the freedom you get when you work on your own, but it's hard. I mean, I don't know how you felt recording your solo album and working on your solo project, but for me, it's definitely a struggle not to have partners. I love having a partner or
Mhm.
you know, being in a group, you know, making music together.
You know, I like having people involved at all times, really. But then it's just about sort of like the creative decisions. If those are like in a real collaboration, basically what that can mean is that you say yes to something that you don't like,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And that has happened to me a lot. I
Mm.
still think that the resulting work was good,
Yeah,
but obviously very different from what I would have done.
yeah.
And so when I'm doing like solo work now, I always, you know, I always had like an intern or an assistant or like
Mhm.
somebody involved helping, and that
Yeah,
was always very important to me to collaborate on that level, but not necessarily on the musical decisions, you know,
yeah,
level.
yeah, yeah.
So after that experience in Canada,
Mm.
did you go back to Belgium, or what happened
Yeah,
then?
yeah, yeah. I went back to Belgium until I met my husband Peter in 2007,
Mhm.
and we decided to move to Berlin together the year after. That was, he was living in New York at that time for 6 years.
Mhm.
And for me, it was sort of, it was, I was at a point where I already wanted to move out of Brussels. I wanted to move away from my roots. I wanted to experience something new.
Mhm.
And Berlin seemed like a vibrant city with a lot of freedom, because I needed a lot of freedom to
Yeah.
be really who I was and who yeah, play the music I wanted to play and not think too much about what other people would say.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, and I had spent a lot of time in Russia because I fell in love with Russia and Russian culture and Russian people, you know. So for me, the more east I could go, the better. But living in Russia didn't seem like the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would have been totally different. Yeah. So when I came to Berlin, I was like, oh yeah, great architecture. That feels a bit like St. Petersburg in some areas. And at the same time, I'm in a city where I can play creative music and meet creative musicians that have a background, you know, in that music.
Yeah, sort of, Berlin is sort of like the ideal place to be for a creative person in general, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's difficult to explain to some people that, you know, that don't experience the city from our point of view, right? But I really think it's an extraordinary place. And you know, I've visited a lot of cities on this planet, right? And there's nothing like Berlin anywhere else.
Yeah, where did you live?
Well, I didn't live. I just visited, you know. But
Right.
I lived in Innsbruck, Austria.
Oh yeah, right.
In Tirol, and that was like the opposite of Berlin, right? Like literally the opposite. Like here, nobody cares, like if you're around or not, and that's great because it gives you the freedom. It gives you the freedom to. You know, like the friends will always stay friends. Just the fact that you will be away for 3 months doesn't mean that they won't talk to you anymore. You know.
No, it's great. Everybody is just coming and going. I mean.
Yeah.
And I find a city can shape your music as well. I don't know if you feel that too, having been to other places, but I'm pretty sure that I would have written different music had I been in a different city.
Yeah. I don't know about myself yet. I think I moved here in early 2014, so it's almost 8 years, but still, like musically, since I've been away so much making music, I can't tell. I can't really tell what the influence of the city is. And unlike you, you know, like you are working with people from Berlin, right? Like, and I have not done that yet. I hope that will change soon.
Yeah, that's true. It's true that for me, Berlin is really my musical life. Yeah. Next year I will work with Kevin Patton, this guitarist. We're gonna record some music in Sweden, in a place where you can compose in a composer center. So that will be my first collaboration with somebody really who I don't live in, who I don't share the same city with.
Yeah. And where does he live?
In Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Washington. Yeah, and we will not have seen each other for almost 16 years.
Incredible.
So 2006 Canada, the workshop, and then 2022 Sweden, working on a concept. I mean, poems, actually French poems. I'm going back to my mother tongue for once, because I really rarely sing in French.
Are those going to be poems from one poet or different?
Louise de Villemorin. She's absolutely fantastic. She was born in the early 20th century. She died not that long ago. I don't know, in the 70s, I think. And her way of writing poetry is so unique. I've never come across this way. She basically, everything is an image transforming itself. Basically, like the music you did with Jan Peter Schwalm, I find. It's really constantly transforming and it's constantly exciting. It's mesmerizing. And she writes exactly in that way, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing what will come out of that collaboration.
Me too. I have no idea. We actually called it ambient techno chamber music. That's what it's gonna probably be. Yeah.
So that's the plan.
That's the plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if it changes, it's fine too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's quite fun. Yeah.
So you were talking about your husband. So your husband is a composer and plays saxophone, right?
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
has a couple of groups. I saw some videos on I think on his webpage where you were
Yeah.
also singing in
Mhm.
like an octet or whatever. Like
Oh, right. Yeah, his octet. Yeah, that was cool. That was a few years ago. Yeah,
yeah,
that
very
was
nice.
fun. But of course not easy to maneuver a boat with 8 people.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Do you find it difficult to make music with your husband?
Not at all. No, he's in
No.
my new band. No, I love it. I love it. We actually
Hmm.
we recorded an album in 2009. That was so refreshing. It was really fun.
Hmm.
But I'm asked this question quite a lot, actually. I think it's very different for everyone. I think some
Hmm.
people can't work as a couple, but we can work really, really well together. Yeah. Feel very lucky about that because I love his support and I love the way he writes. I love his music. It gives me the opportunity to sing in a very different way, in a much more abstract way, more like
Hmm.
an instrument.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's a lot of fun, yeah. And now he's in my new Arabic band, uh, so which we're gonna record in November. I'm very curious of the outcome. We'll see.
What is the instrumentation
So
for
it's
that project?
drums, electric bass, electric guitar, baritone sax or an alto sax.
Hmm.
Me singing, and then we have a special guest on trumpet, Lina Alemano, who is amazing. She'll be on a
And
few tracks, yeah.
and so the Arabic texts, did you write them or like?
No, that would have no. I'm struggling a lot with the Arabic. I mean, I can have a conversation of like half an hour, 45 minutes in Arabic with a person. So it's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
But the basically I met a Syrian poet a few years ago in Berlin, and so we decided I would put music to a few of his poems. And since it was extremely hard, I couldn't do more than four songs. So now my Arabic teacher from Lebanon, he's translating some songs of mine into Arabic. So the music has been written by me, the lyrics have been written by me, and he's translating them into Arabic so it fits the rhythm pretty much. You know, I mean, of course we work a little bit on some rhythmic changes, but basically he's doing an extraordinary job because it sounds great in Arabic and it usually rhymes and fits my music. So
that's incredible.
yeah, and that's a lot of fun because it's so strange for me to have my lyrics in that other language, you know, that language that's so far, even a language I don't control yet, you know. I might not even ever control it, but I'm giving myself 10 years. Maybe in 10 years I'll be able to control it really, but yeah.
Oh, that is incredible. Hey,
It's fun.
can I ask you about how you compose and like so how you like for example, what do you give the musicians in this project? Like
In that
what do they?
project, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because I have different projects. Like my quartet with Susanne Folk, which is called Azolia. I write out every note from every instrument because we're kind of like a chamber ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
But with Kayal is the name of this Arabic band. I basically I have some written arrangements, but it's very chord based, and we're working on the sound together.
I see.
you know, or I have an idea of what it should sound like. But the thing is, I had never written for guitar in the past, nor for drums. I mean, my first project, my first band 20 years ago was with drums, but I didn't write anything for the drummer. So for me, that was really new, and it's quite interesting to now go back to a band with drums.
Yeah.
I don't write for him though. And for guitar, I wrote some things, but then it didn't work. You know, I was like, it's not a horn. I was so used to writing for horns or for myself, voices. You know, I write out voicings that I then record for my solo project. So it's
yeah, I understand. So basically the musicians sort of interpret the composition at that point.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite nice also to let the musicians decide a bit, because they know the best, especially I think for guitar. How could one write for guitar? I'm sure people can, but I really don't see how I could write anything better than the guitarists could come up with.
Yeah, I'm I'm of a slightly different opinion there, because I agree. Obviously, for every instrument, there's sort of like an idiomatic way of playing an instrument, and things that work and things that don't work.
Yeah,
for sure. However, like when I compose, I'm trying to go for really like the pure expression of what the composition should be, and then the player needs to figure it out. That's sort of like the ideal situation is where like a player would really, even if it takes 10 years to learn the piece, you know, like it's obviously it's not something that happens often, you know, but I think that's sort of like the ideal situation where you not have to make any concessions, because like it's not something that can be done easily, you know.
So you mean you would write out every note for every instrument?
Yeah, I mean, like with the sort of like more contemporary classical stuff, I do. That's what I have to do, because it's very, I have a very strong kind of like vision what I want. So couple of years I did this string quartet, and you haven't heard it yet?
No, I want to hear that.
You need to hear that. And that was kind of like one of these cases where I was thinking, as I was writing, I was thinking, okay, do I need to make this easy so that they can play it, or can I do something that will be challenging? And so luckily I was working with an amazing quartet, the Matangi Quartet from the Netherlands, and they were amazing. So it was the correct approach, not to kind of like try to write something that would be easy. And I think the result is come out really beautifully, you know.
It's great when you can work with people who can play anything you want.
Exactly.
Really, but I love writing out every note. I mean, I do that for Azulia, definitely. I love having exactly what I hear, and maybe that will happen with Kayal. It's just I'm not used to this formation, you know. I'm not used to this the guitar and the electric bass, and then one horn or two, and the drums. Yeah, it's really totally new for me.
So the
basically chord changes. I mean, I have a lot of, when I write a song, there are a lot of sections, you know. It develops, and then it comes back, but it's not just like one or two. It's not an A form. That's really, that would be extremely rare. It might, maybe.
So the quartet is called Azuli, or what?
Azulia.
Okay.
Azulia,
It's that was the first thing I came across, because you may have posted it on social media or something, like a video, and I was really very impressed. I really liked that a lot.
Oh,
And
that's
it was very obvious that all the parts had been written out,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I like that a lot.
yeah. It's a lot of fun working with those musicians because we've been working together in this formation for 12 years now
Mm-hmm.
with the exact same four people.
Mm-hmm.
So we know each other now. We know the sound of everyone. We know everyone's everything that everyone can do, and we can write for that.
Mm-hmm.
And also we practice a lot and in great detail. We can spend hours practicing and then, oh, but in that bar, that thing, that note could be a little longer.
Oh, that is so wonderful.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, just to, because one of the sad things I see when I meet other musicians or like my students, and where they tell me, oh, it's so difficult to find people to make music with, like people that have the same musical taste, or even or the same level of commitment to practicing something, and finding people like that is really is harder than finding a partner,
Yeah.
harder than finding a lover,
Yeah. And it takes sometimes time to find the real people for your project. I mean,
yeah.
We searched around quite a bit. We also tried with cello or with violin, with bass clarinet and cello, the bass clarinet having the function of the double bass.
Mm-hmm.
Until we switched it around where Lothar was playing the bass clarinet and we had the bass player Andreas Welti,
Mm-hmm.
who lives now in Vienna, who moved 10 years ago or 11 years ago to Vienna. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, right when we found him, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we've still stayed. We still absolutely love working together because it's also, yeah, when you work with musicians, there's the personalities that have to work together,
mm-hmm.
and that joins the idea of psychology. I once heard a podcast about some guy who had analyzed successful groups or successful companies. Why was Chrysler successful, or I don't know what other car company, and basically he was saying that when a team does not always agree, it's a winning team, but only if the disagreement is resolved. So it is important to disagree, to have a bit of rubbing, but it's important to resolve as well, because teams who always agree, they will never go forward. They will never change, and then it's gonna fall apart because nothing is happening, and then you lost the game. And if you only disagree and you only fight, then the company will explode because everybody will stop.
Yeah.
But if you have a team that sometimes disagrees and says, oh, but I have a better idea, and you can work with that instead of having your ego crushed or something, if you take this and you compromise, and then you come up with something that can last. So I have the feeling now, it's the proof that we, with Azolia, we will continue forever. I don't think we will ever stop. I mean, I really hope so.
Yeah, 12 years is a long time.
It has worked for 12 years. Why not for 20 or 30? Yeah. Yeah, but you also have a band like that. You told me, right, in the States, you've worked with for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, like I have quite a few long term projects. Like the main one being a band or a project called Centrozone, and that was started in '96, and we had like the 20-year anniversary tour in 2016, and now it's already 25 years, and it's incredible. And yeah, Stickman, which is the trio that I've been touring
Yeah.
with in the past 10 years. It's been 10 years now.
Yeah.
And
Wow,
I like
25 years. I can't imagine that
25
much
years.
anything.
And it's interesting because we don't make that much music anymore. Maybe like we play together once per year because it's not a successful project. Like nobody wants to hear it, right? So we do it for ourselves. And but when we get together and play, it's unbelievable. Like the
Yeah.
level of telepathic
Yeah.
connection
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
and it's always kind of like really satisfying, and the result is very emotionally
Yeah.
deep and pleasing.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
like
It's wonderful. Wonderful.
this whole aspect of at some point as a musician, well, I could say we or you, but I mean myself actually, coming to this point where I can do anything and it works,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where it's like
Yeah.
really when I'm like I don't play piano, but like I have an electric piano here, and I can just sit down, and it doesn't matter which notes I'm playing, and I'm just moving, and I'm just feeling my way into the
Yeah.
music rather than knowing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I do the same with the instrument, with my main instrument as well. Like I
Yeah.
can completely turn off that part that analyzes what I do,
Yeah.
and just let my body do the talking, just the
Yeah.
movements of my fingers. And that has been like the most satisfying aspect of being a practicing musician for such a long time, that at some point you really don't need to think at all
Yeah.
anymore and just
Yeah.
play.
And when you have that with the band, it's also, I find, wonderful. I mean, this project with Azolia, our latest CD is quite intricate. The arrangements are quite intricate, and we've practiced them a lot because we put music to 10 poems by Wilfred Owen, who was a poet who died at the end of World War One.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to do something special with his poems. Like it needed attention and it was a different way of composing, actually, having these beautiful and strong lyrics. So it became some sort of, every song became that little jewel that we took care of, and we've practiced it so much. And now we were on tour last week or the week before, and we were playing these pieces like it was nothing, although it had been so hard at the beginning. Like the tuning, the rhythm, because we don't have drums in our band, we don't have a piano or guitar, so it's interesting. And then at soundcheck, one of us would start one part of one piece, and then we would just go there with without giving the time, without counting it in. And it was just so wonderful. It was so that was the music, because it was just organic. It didn't matter this stupid counting in.
Yeah. It's incredible if it comes together like that.
Yeah, I think I can enjoy that so much more than 15 years ago. That's why I love this period now of my life, where music it's a different thing. I don't know if I can say it's easier, because it's always challenging. There's always a challenge, but somehow it's more organic. It gets there. So great.
Yeah, and this is not the end, like
No, exactly.
in a few years you will be in a completely different place again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious about because you said that there in Canada, that was like the first time you had the experience of having your voice go through some effects, and
yeah.
And I've heard and seen you use like a looper or something, right?
Yeah.
And you also said that you're very, very particular in arranging your voice when you're layering.
Yeah.
So how so that part of your work, let's say, that's using effects and stuff, like how has that happened? And are you still doing solo performances like that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, my solo performance have shifted. I mean, at first I used a looper, what, 15 years ago or so I started, and I only had the looper, but with 3 different loops. And the challenge was to create a piece that doesn't sound like there are loops, because that was always something that bothered me. This idea that I do one voice and then it repeats and I do another one on top, and that's totally boring, I find. So I had to find a way to do it a bit differently and pre-record some material, because it wasn't possible otherwise, right? Otherwise you hear it. I practiced a lot through another project I had with a composer whose name is Simon Vince, and we improvised for 4 years. He had electroacoustic. He was doing electroacoustic music. He was improvising live as well, and I was improvising with my loop station, but in a way that it was not clear that it was a loop, because I had 3 loops going on at the same time. Most of them were, the sound was off while I was looping, until a texture appeared and I could bring it out and then improvise with the others. And it was a whole fun mental thing, actually, to think, okay, I'm having this now and this is going to come out now, okay, more or less. And then improvising with him, which made a coding. It coded the whole thing, It was a lot of fun. But then I think it was 2014 or 15, Simon told me, hey, you'd be interested in Ableton Live. And then the whole thing shifted, It was so different. I was able to have a whole orchestra by myself, basically. A lot of pre-recorded material, as well as the live loops, but not too much, and as well as the live, one live voice. So that was how it became what it is now, which is a lot of voices at the same time.
So this album that was put out by Rare Noise, that is vocals only, right?
Only vocals. And you were talking about effects, but I never used effects. I mean, I call it voice and electronics because, of course, I can't sing all of them at the same time. But so I layered them, and a few parts had been looped with the loop station, just really sporadically. And there's some reverb, which is also an effect, but it's not really I didn't transform the quality of my voice, except for two or 3 spots where a note was really lowered 2 octaves down. But that's the only change in the album. Now I decided, okay, I'm interested in changing my voice. I'm searching for it. And I realized quickly that I don't like it when it's too electronic, too typical. Because then also it doesn't sound human anymore. And I think what I love about my solo album is that it's human, pure. It's like so human that it's exactly what I wanted, the humanity, the something that touches the soul and touches your skin almost,
Yeah. I mean, that's the advantage of also having the voice as the instrument, like the most immediate instrument. And
that's true.
And I totally see like any sort of like vocal treatment, even like in music production, it's always very difficult to sort of, because it takes something away that is so perfect already, right? The human voice. And for me with my instrument, well, like I did do something very similar, let's say, but it was so hard to kind of like find my own sound, my own voice, let's say, with that.
Why?
Well, why? I don't know. I think it's just because in the mid 90s when people started, when there was like a scene, you know, like the live
Mhm.
looping scene that sort of started, like people
Mhm.
were using the same devices, and then like some sort of cliches started developing,
Same, right? Yeah.
and
You play
and
the bass line and then you improvise on top or something.
yeah, and I never did that. So that was like my forte
Mhm.
already. Like I didn't never
Mhm.
wanted to do that. I developed like my own harmonic language, kind of like based on the looping.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but then the question about the sound it's really challenging, because as you say, you don't want to be too electronic,
Mhm.
but then because of the looping, it is kind of like, because of the layering, it is starting to sound orchestral, or you could say like a chorus,
Yeah.
right? Like, and you sort of like have to sort of like learn to counteract the effect of the
Mhm.
layering somehow, when using guitar. Like with the
Yeah.
voice, it's a different thing. But um, it was just like decades of experimentation, you know. And now I'm really happy that I can do both. I can kind of like go for totally kind of really cold artificial sound, which sometimes I really love to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But also like this last one I put out, Anchor and Burden, that is like a very like almost acoustic kind of
Mhm.
dirty sound, which I also love.
Yeah. I can imagine for guitar, maybe it's similar to what I experience now with Ableton, is that there are so many possibilities.
Mhm.
And what do you choose to make it your own? It probably must be hard. I mean, because I was brought up with the piano, and it's always the piano. It's nothing else. It's that
Yeah.
one sound, or the voice. That was that one sound, and then suddenly having this electric world to dive into. Yeah, I thought I'd be totally excited to use a lot of effects stuff, but now when I was searching, I couldn't find it. I mean, maybe maybe I will someday find a more electronic sound that I will like, or multiple, or effects, or I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's really that there is obviously like the piano, and most certainly the voice is a music is an instrument that has, you know, evolved over such a long time
Mm.
that it literally is perfect. And yeah, like,
I think so
because
too.
it is what it is, right? It totally is what it is. But with something like an electric guitar, okay, like when was electricity invented? You
Yeah.
know, so yeah, it really is something new in a way. And I've always found that kind of like a solution is to make sure that you're like, for example, if you're using Ableton Live,
Mhm.
what happens is people choose the same plugins, right? The same sounds with the same
Yeah.
presets,
Yeah.
and very easily you know everything sounds the same.
Yeah.
And so a trick is to kind of like use individual pedals, and
Mhm.
use pedals from different brands, and sort of like put them together and try combinations. And you know,
Yeah.
that has always been my thing, to find like
Yeah.
my own combination
Mhm.
of effects to kind of like find my sound, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to find a middle ground, but I need a lot of time to explore all that.
Yeah. But I
It's
mean, to be quite honest, like when I'm like listening to improvising singers, let's say, or also like using loopers, or loop station,
mm,
most of the time it's not very good for my
mm,
taste. So this is the, you know, but also I wouldn't see how it would be better by
mhm.
using effects. Yeah, I think the really the solution is in the composition again. So if somebody is doing great compositions with it, then that's the solution to the problem. And in
There's
the end,
also
that's
mm,
no, I'm just saying, in the end, that's always the answer. You know, like it's the composition. It's not necessarily the sounds or the techniques you use. It's the composition
yeah,
itself.
yeah. I think a lot of people get excited of becoming a choir, you know, just having your voice multiplied. It's a super fun thing, but maybe not for an audience, you know. I see that sometimes. It's not so, it doesn't go anywhere. It's not a finished composition. Because there is this barrier of the machine, the way the machine is built in loops. You have to be very careful, and not say, oh, but it isn't possible in any other way. You know, if I use the looper live, I can only build a song this way. So, okay, it's going to be repeated a few times. No, you can also say, I don't buy that. You know, I don't do that. I'm not going to do that. Then you find another way, and then it's pre-recorded stuff, you know, which maybe other people think is bullshit. I don't know, but I've chosen to do it more that way, and I like the creative work in the studio as well, to create all of that. I mean, that's one of the best parts, actually, and to be able to really have an orchestra and really go into detail of a whole composition.
Yes.
The voice is fun.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I don't know if many people who do that really to really kind of like write their own compositions for just voices. I mean, like obviously people write for choir and stuff, but like what I'm saying is with with something like Ableton, not like. Hey, so and how did Giacomo find out about you and put out that record on Rare Noise? What's the connection?
I sent it to him when it was finished, and he liked it, and that was awesome for me, because it became a vinyl, and I love vinyls. I listen pretty much only to vinyls at home, so that was fun.
Oh, that's pretty amazing. Like so you just sent him something and he likes it and he puts it out. That's a dream. That's like a dream come true.
Yeah, it was a bit of a dream. Yeah. Yeah, he's a great guy. It's a great label, actually, and really great music. I discovered Jan Peter Schwalm through him, and I was blown away. I was literally sitting on the floor listening to that, because I don't know why I was sitting on the floor with headphones, I don't know, through my phone, I guess, which I never do. I almost never do. And I heard it, and I just stood there, and I thought, this is like going out of space. You know, his album How We Fall, you know, it was like, wow. Very, very interesting experience. And then it was fun to discover you through those songs that you did with him, where I'm on them, you know, because I recorded on top of your music that you had already created with him. So I heard your playing, and I was like, I didn't know you, and I was like, wow, it was great to hear the guitar sound with Jan Peter Schwalm's sound. Actually, for me, the guitar already brought a lot of humanity in it. Actually, it was very human. Very.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this was interesting because I didn't really know that he had the plan to bring you in, and he just did, and I obviously said yes, of course, like you guys go ahead, and then I still find your voice on this album to be kind of like I don't know how to put it, but it's sort of like that. That really absolutely special, I don't know, like almost alien aspect of the music somehow when you know, because like
Yeah.
because it comes in the last third of the record
Yeah.
only, you
Yeah.
know, and it's just this moment where like suddenly there is something that is sort of, there's some light, let's say, in all that darkness, and I find it absolutely incredible, like this combination of sounds.
Yeah, I like it too. I love it actually. It's very mysterious. I love mysterious things, like how to, I mean, Jan Peter Schwarm, he did an amazing job. When we spoke on the phone, I realized we really do similar things in a way. That was very interesting.
You know,
But
I
the
was
way he layered my voice, because he created this piece with you. I didn't compose that part. I just recorded, and then he did whatever he wanted with it. And I also, just like you, I said, do your thing, you know. Yeah, sorry, what did you want to say?
No, I just want to say I've been a big fan of Peter's work for over 20 years.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a real, like another another dream come true to work with him, actually.
Yeah, for me too, because I got the phone call after I had been on the floor thinking, oh my God, you know, this guy is a god of music. And then like a month later or so, he called me. So it was really,
wonderful.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, but that's really, I'm really very happy to hear you tell me, you know, like parts of your life story, and just realizing how many pivotal points you had in your life that kind of brought something really wonderful and new. And as you were saying, like moments where you were changed, and where change was enabled by doors opening, and you had, and this is wonderful. And it's sort of like life, you know, life can just happen to you if you're open.
Yeah, I mean, I had one of the most fascinating things that happened to me, and I don't know if you have that too, but sometimes in life things happen which lead to the next, and you just think, what the fuck happened, you know? Because when I came to Berlin, I didn't really have that much to do, and I needed a job, you know. It was all very chaotic. And I had met through Craigslist, I don't know if you know Craigslist, this Japanese dancer. She was born on the same day as me, and we decided to do something together. She was a dancer. She wanted to do the Japanese tea ceremony, a piece with that. So we prepared, I think, a 20-minute piece. So super short. Me with my loop station, trying to do something interesting, right? Not too repetitive and all that. And we performed it in a tiny cafe, which doesn't exist anymore, in Prenzlauer Berg, where like 15 people can sit or something. And she danced. She had like 2 square meters. I don't know how she did it. And I was there with my loop station, all new, first concert, solo. And we performed this. And then after the concert, this woman comes up to me and says, how do you do this? You know? And she was a theater director. And she asked me how I did that. She was totally fascinated. And a year later, she called me and said, we met a year ago and I need your voices. Can you play in my play? That was like the beginning of a whole new world for me, because that's when I really developed my solo concepts, because I did the whole music, the whole theater play was just me with the loop station and an actress, and I had to do the whole music. So it was amazing. Also because this woman, Elżbieta Bednarska, she's Polish. She has such an amazing attitude towards art in general, towards theater, but I think art in general, which is extremely interesting for me to work with such a person who's looking for the truth. Actually, she's looking for something that is truthful in you and in the related to the piece. So I was not told to do something she wanted. I was told to find in me what resonates in me with the piece, you know. And that has been like that for all the pieces we've done. We've worked together on 7 pieces, I think now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
2009.
You're really blessed.
Yeah.
in these wonderful chance meetings, you know. I think there's so much power in those.
Yeah.
And that is sort of like maybe one of the saddest, I think, aspects of the lockdowns and everything, that like there were, you know, not much opportunity for these chance meetings of
that's true for
people, you know. But yeah, I mean, my life is also full of these incredible situations where, you know, like the reason why I'm in the band Stickman with Pat Maslotta and Tony Levin is because I met Pat Maslotta on a train. It was a chance meeting on a train.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah, like these things, you cannot plan them, you know. They just, but somehow I believe that having, for lack of a better term, like having a future vision, having some sort of aim, having some sort of idea, helps to actually get there eventually, even though you don't know what the path is going to be. But
I guess starting with the goal is not a bad idea.
Right. Yeah, but also the goal is not a fixed thing, right? Like it changes over time, and it's something that evolves, and I have to say, like, so far in my life I've been lucky to you know, I don't want to say that I always got what I want or what I wanted, because that's not true. But artistically, I was able to do what I wanted to do.
That's amazing. Because a lot of people can't really be as lucky as that, right?
Yes. Yeah. So in a way, the art of being an you know, where life itself is sort of like the art, you know, it's that is sort of something I have been very interested in, the art of living, right?
Yeah. Have you read the War of Art?
No.
By, I forget. I totally forgot. It's a famous book. But it talks about that. I mean, basically the essence is that you have to do what you want to do. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not very good at summarizing books. I'm just gonna stop there because I'm gonna.
But maybe that already was the essence of it.
Yeah, do what you want to do. You know.
Yeah.
What else do you want to do?
Yeah.
Is something you don't want to do? No, come on. You want to do what you want to
do. One of my closest friends I talked with today, and he said he was at a wedding on the weekend, and he was a guest there, and there were a lot of much younger people there, so like almost half his age, and he told me today, he said that he didn't go into detail, but he said to me, you know, these people there, they are really, really different from how we used to be. They have a completely different way of talking, and they have completely different subjects they talk about. And that was kind of like touched me really deeply, how he described that. I you know, maybe I should ask him tomorrow, like what they actually talk about, because I'd be interested. But it was really interesting to see that maybe the kind of life and the kind of ideas and the dreams that we have, that I had, that you had, that you have, that I have, are sort of like not something that we can easily transfer onto other people. You know, it's not that it's sort of something that may be true for everybody, and certainly not for people that grew up in a completely different environment.
Yeah, I mean, this internet world they are growing up in, it's so different from our world. We have no idea, right? I have no idea what it feels like to be young in that generation. Yeah, to be, because I think when you were a teenager and then when you're 20, 25, you're still really figuring out who you are and what you want to do. But having this exposure to the whole world constantly during that phase, whoa, I don't know. Yeah. That seems hard, but of course for that generation, it is normal.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't compare thinking about how life could be without it, because that, you know,
they don't know.
I never thought, when I was a child, I never thought what would have happened had I grown up in a world without TV. You know, I mean, I was never a big TV fan, but it was normal. I was there, and I never knew life without it, and it's fine. It's there. It's fine. What's the problem with TV? You know. So it's the same with the young generation with the internet.
Yeah, yeah.
For them, it's normal. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. You know, and I'm sort of like the, you know, I'm a very optimistic guy, so I would say it's a good thing. It's a great thing. It kind of like opens up new paths, you know, like that I have no idea what they could be, and I'm really always curious, kind of like observing, especially also in music. Like it's so stunning how incredibly like proficient like very young musicians can be nowadays already, like technically proficient, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just curious to see what will happen to those people in like 20 years, you know,
yeah.
like what their art will be like. You know, it makes me I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so it's fascinating. You know, I feel like for myself, I feel like we've only just started scratching the surface, and I hope we'll talk some more soon.
Yeah, it's fun.
But thanks for sharing, you know, these parts of your life with me, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll meet in real soon.
Yes, yes.
Again, like now we're in our homes.
It's a luxury that we're living in the same city.
Yeah, yeah, not even that far away from each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so thanks for this.
You too.
And
it's fun to think about all these things with you and share.
Yeah, you know, like I'm saying, like I feel like we're just at the very beginning of a conversation, you know.
Yeah.
So let's do this again. That's the point.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.